What up, college baseball fans? I'm Monty Taylor. Just doing a quick special after an incredible regional final in Chapel Hill. UNC is able to get the W 4-3. Mike is going to be joining me here when he can. Just what a performance by Dalton Pence in the later stage of the game. Some interesting coaching decisions that ultimately didn't end up being too much of a problem. It was just an absolute gritty performance from UNC against a really, really dangerous LSU squad. We knew when the selections were announced that UNC might have a problem with this LSU team, given how well they've played over the last month and a half or so, where they've really figured out their pitching staff and their lineup a bit. So LSU, very, very good team, much more dangerous than probably what the committee seeded them as, because again, I don't think UNC, as the number 4 overall seed in the country, deserved as good a team as LSU as the number 2 seed, but ultimately they're able to survive. And again, they may not have had to deal with this if Wofford had been able to close out any of the 2 games they had against LSU. So lots of good stuff for UNC. They come back and win, and it was the bottom of their order that really did the damage. Gavin Gallagher, once again, kind of being the hero because he's the spark plug in that 9th inning that really delivers there. And then Colby Wilkerson, I'm not sure what was going on with the defense there. You had Gavin Gallagher on second base, and they were playing a no doubles defense, which was interesting. Especially against the number 9 hitter, who I can't remember how many home runs Colby Wilkerson has on the year, but I'm pretty sure it's 3 or less. Not a big power guy. He's a defense first shortstop. So it's very interesting that LSU was playing defensively that way, because it looked like a fly out to me off the bat. Right, we're watching it, and I'm like, oh man, that's going to hang in the air too much. But then they pan the camera, and I'm like, okay, that's going to drop. Very, very interesting defensive alignment decision there by LSU against Colby Wilkerson. But ultimately, that is the result there. And yep, I'm rocking the cap. I've been wearing it all day. UNC is the only ACC team in action today, so it was very easy to know what I was going to wear today. And with that, we have 5 ACC teams in the Super Regionals. The ACC got 5 teams into the Super Regionals with less teams in the tournament. They got the same amount of teams as the SEC, who had 11 teams in the tournament. So all 5 regional hosts doing a great job of taking care of business. Virginia went 2-0 against the SEC. Ultimately, UNC went 2-1. North Carolina State went 1-0 because they did not end up having to play South Carolina again. And then, of course, Florida State and Clemson didn't even have to worry about Bama and Vandy, because those teams didn't even get a chance to face the ACC host. So I think this kind of proves that this is a year where the ACC was a lot closer to the SEC. I still think the SEC is the best conference in college baseball, but I think the gap this year was significantly smaller than it has been in past years. And I know some people were like, well, you're facing our 5 through 8 teams or 5 through 9 teams in the SEC. But I mean, if the SEC wins those games, that tells us that gap is wider than we thought, right? So absolutely sensational performance from UNC. I mean, their biggest guys came up. I mean, Dalton Pence, I believe he's a draft eligible sophomore, because he is a redshirt sophomore, but it'll be interesting to see if he comes back, because I mean, yep. Shout out to Chinook Sunflower Seeds too, because I was enjoying your cinnamon toast seeds all weekend at the Charlottesville Regional. So appreciate that. But yeah, it's fantastic. Dalton Pence was huge. Matias was fantastic when he came in. Jason DeCaro on short rest because I believe he pitched Friday. Giving them 2 solid innings and at one point stranding the runner. It was just absolutely huge. So the ACC coming up big, and I have to think Duke and Wake Forest would have had much better performances had they gotten hosting opportunity. Unfortunately for Duke, they just ran into some trouble. And then Wake Forest, can't really say too much about them, but yeah, Canes got Heat's bringing up a good point. Louisville is a team that didn't make the tournament, and right now they do have the number 1 overall player in the portal. Gavin Keelan is an absolute surprise in the portal. Somebody's going to be getting a very, very good shortstop who I think he had a breakout year very quietly. I mean, when I was checking box scores and watching Louisville all the time, he seemed to be always in the mix of doing something. And he was one of the only few Louisville players who actually played literally every game because they didn't really have a shortstop behind him. So really, really big. And yeah, no, managing the runners is massive. And that's where some of that veteran talent comes in, the bend but don't break kind of thing. So really, really good stuff. And another great point by Chinook Seeds. This is a wide open tournament for the first time in a while. Trying to show there we go. Trying to show the comment there, but yeah, this is the most open tournament we've had in a while. I think Tennessee deserves to be the favorite as what they've done, but I mean, we also know that for whatever reason, the number 1 seed hasn't always gotten over the hump and accomplished that win since Canes Cats Heat. Do you remember who the last number 1 team to win the national championship was? I'm having trouble remembering off the top of my head, but yeah, keeping Tommy quiet after, that was the big thing. And I think Gavin Gallagher robbed him a couple of times tonight. He definitely robbed him once, and it was fantastic. But it was 1999, and it was the Miami Hurricanes. Thank you, Chinook. Yeah, Canes Cats Heat. I set you up to talk about Miami, but you couldn't quite take it. So yeah, it's huge. Big. I just had to make sure Micah had the link. It was 2001. No, it was 1999. I'm pretty sure it was 1999. Anyway, yeah, we're going to have Mike on here in a second when he gets a chance to get the link. But it's going to be really, really fun to talk about this game tonight. It was exactly what you want on a Monday. And when everyone's watching your game because there's nothing else on, scrolling Twitter and seeing how people were watching college baseball was a really special thing. Micah is here.
I'm going on a walk, Monty. I left my computer, so it's going to be Micah after dark.
Yeah, we can barely see Micah because he's in the dark. Okay.
This is the definition of a live show.
Yeah.
Doing. Exactly. I mean, this is supposed to be a fun talk, right? We're not going to be detailing any supers, right? Because we got to have Nick for tomorrow.
Yeah. No, this is a special show. I even labeled it as the ACC Central Special. UNC wins. Our normal show will be tomorrow night. But yeah, this was what a game, right, Micah? What's your instant reaction to what you saw tonight?
This was a Omaha super regional type game. This should not have been a regional final.
How about that atmosphere at the Bosch?
That was awesome. I mean, Monty, we messed up by not deciding to kill ourselves to go to that game tonight.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to go, and I opted to rest, and I'm kicking myself right now. By the way, Chinook Seedery Sunflower Seed said, "Turn your brightness up."
I can't. I'm dark. It's dark outside.
And he's wearing a Yukon hat, despite
brightness is all the way up. Is that better?
There we go. And yeah. So, Micah, I mean, the Bosch was electric. I mean, that atmosphere alone. And I mean, the check swings and the bunt down the third baseline by Madera. I mean, just electric.
I mean, can we talk about how good Dalton Pence was? I mean, he just comes in and he didn't even blink. I mean, to do what he did there in that situation, to get Tommy White to chase, I don't even know what Tommy was really swinging at there, but to get Tommy White to chase that who was the last guy to fly out? Why am I drawing a blank on who flew out to end the game?
Oh, Brown.
Brown.
No, he walked.
Yeah, he's going to say, it was, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank now. Sorry, LSU fans, I don't have your lineup memorized. But he had been hitting really well this regional, and then obviously, again, he gets that final out. I mean, I thought he may have hit it at first. I got really scared for a second there, Monty.
So, good question here. Did LSU test UNC in a way they didn't get in the ACC?
Ooh.
Well, I'm going to say no based on what we saw in the ACC tournament last Friday.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
They faced Chase Burns and Wake Forest, and they were able to weather the storm initially against Wake Forest. They came back once Chase Burns left the game, and that was one of the best college baseball games I've seen this year. And ultimately, Nick Kurtz with 2 strikes was able to tie the game, and then they went to extras, and Nick Kurtz won it in the game. So LSU tested UNC in a way. I think that Wake Forest loss probably prepared UNC for this game. What do you think, Micah?
Yeah, I mean, I think the closest team to LSU in the ACC might be Florida State, who North Carolina didn't see this year. Because you think about it, they have similar type of rotation, some pretty solid bullpen guys that, can be hit or miss, but for the most part, you feel pretty comfortable about, and a lineup that anybody can hit on any given day. So I wouldn't say this is the first time they've been tested like this, but LSU is built differently than most ACC teams. Monty, I walked away from that again super impressed with LSU. I mean, this team is just different. Like, I don't know if LSU sent to Charlottesville, who knows? If LSU gets sent to a lot of different places in the ACC for a regional, like LSU kind of got punished here too.
I mean, this is a completely different LSU team from the beginning of the year too. Like it's the way they've been able to adjust and adapt mid-season is really impressive.
Absolutely. I mean, again, like, goodness gracious, this was, again, Monty, this should not have been a regional final, excuse me. Like, this. I mean, we literally saw them play 3 times, right? Or no, I'm tripping. No,
we did.
Yeah,
we did.
Play 3 times.
Yep. UNC went 2-1.
Yeah, this should have been being played next weekend. So, and like, now, Monty, I pose a question to you. If you're a West Virginia person, are you happy this game went the way it did tonight? Or do you walk away scared of what this means for the capabilities of UNC?
That's a good question. I know the West Virginia coaching staff was still in a layover in Atlanta because of how their plane situation went out. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how West Virginia handles that, because it's going to be a lot different for them than what they experienced in their regional. UNC's got to be feeling the momentum too. But at the same time, you do have to deal with someone like JJ Weatherholt who can take over an entire series on his own.
Yeah, and I mean, Monty, obviously we'll wait till the game times come out tomorrow, but I might be committing to go to this regional. So, Monty, you ready for a super fun fact that no one cares about, but I just want to share with the whole world anyways?
Real quick, Josh gave a good point. He thinks West Virginia probably prefers UNC as opposed to going to the box at LSU. Although,
that's fair. Plus,
what I saw at the Bosch tonight, I don't know.
But Monty, there is a lot of West Virginia fans that live in the southwestern portion of Virginia. So, like, they're more likely to be able to A, get a ticket, but B, travel to the Bosch than I would say they would be to the box. Like, that was my, I guess, look at that was. And again, like, not to insult the Bosch's atmosphere, but the Bosch that's top 3 environment in college baseball, if not maybe top 2, maybe even number 1.
I'd probably say Arkansas, Mississippi State, and LSU are the top 3, with ECU probably 4th.
Yeah, I think you just that's a good one. You almost rank those 5, and what I saw in Clemson this weekend, I might have a conversation that they should be number 5. But I mean, this was For West Virginia, I mean, obviously the extra day of rest is, I guess, beneficial. I am curious because one of these series is Monty has to fall on a Friday. Because I think we had 3 super regionals decided going into the day. I'm assuming like the Virginia regional, but NC State Georgia regional is going to start on Friday. But which series is going to get the short end of the stick? Which team that played today is going to get the short end of the stick and play on Friday?
I don't know.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, surprisingly, UNC did not look very good. This is probably one of the worst LSU teams we'll have, and they just played an easy schedule at the end, but the bats were cold all regional. I will say UNC has they're kind of gritty because, to be honest, I don't think UNC's looked good most of the year until they are, and yet they found ways to win, and then so it's kind of what I've seen from UNC all year long. What do you think, Micah?
Well, yeah, and I also, too, I mean, I'm not trying to say that this individual is making excuses, but obviously this is the just means less ACC folks, right? That sounds like an SEC excuse. Oh, this is one of the worst LSU teams. No, it's not. There's been some pretty rough LSU teams over the last few years. It's not last year's LSU team, but this LSU team is not like – there were people on Twitter like, oh, you caught us at our worst. What? There's been a lot worse LSU ball clubs than what we saw in this regional. I mean, this was 2 teams that were like duking it out. And, at the end of the day, like, I mean, if LSU's outfielder just catches the ball, this game's over.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, like LSU was the better team today, in my opinion. But they made a mistake. UNC made them pay, which is what good teams do.
Yep.
So, it's, I mean, yeah, I mean, I look at this and I go, both teams, honestly, I feel, I genuinely, like, at first, obviously, ACC Micah kicks in, right, Monty? And I'm like, SEC goes down. And I was like, I do feel bad when good ball clubs get punished like LSU did, because both teams got punished. UNC got arguably the most difficult 2 seed, we could argue. And then on the flip side, LSU gets to go to the number 4 team in the country for their regional.
I feel like LSU. I mean, remember though, at a point in the middle of the season, they were outside the tournament looking in.
Yeah, but they sent Vandy to Clemson, and LSU's better than Vandy.
Like, yeah, that's fair.
Monty,
fair.
I'm going to say this out loud, and it's going to make Clemson fans mad, but I don't care. LSU wins the series in Clemson if they would have played there this weekend. The way Clemson looked, in my opinion, against teams like High Point and Coastal, I think that LSU might actually win that regional. Where, again, like North Carolina has a little bit more pitching than I would say Clemson has right now. And again, Clemson looked pretty rough offensively too this weekend. So, again, pairings are the pairings. We got a heck of a game. Do I regret not going? No, because I actually like that I'll be able to sleep in my own bed tonight. But other than that, I do have a little bit of FOMO. Do you have any FOMO, Monty?
Oh, 100%. But I was also questioning some of Scott Forbes' decisions down there at the end. I thought the choice to pinch hit Luke Stevenson was a decision.
Yeah.
And yet Castagnazzi's the one that's had his ball get caught in the lights, right?
Yeah. What do you think of the decision of LSU going to jump there? Because there were some folks that were saying they shouldn't have gone to him because of obviously how much he threw already this weekend. I mean, obviously we're SEC guys, but just based off when you saw him enter the game, Monty, where did your head go?
His stuff and everything looked fine. I think the bigger issue might have been that North Carolina had seen him so much already.
Yeah. I agree.
Did they see? No, because he would have pitched against.
No, Jump pitched against. No. Yeah, Jump pitched against Wofford because it was.
Yeah. Holman pitched against. Yeah. So they hadn't seen him. So I'm not. I don't think it was a terrible decision, but the fact they went for him for multiple innings might have been the rough call. And that Josh said I would have gone to Jump for an inning at most.
Yeah. And that's where it all kind of comes down to a lot of just, Monty, did we learn this weekend? I know we'll talk about it probably when Nick gets on the show tomorrow when we do our actual podcast, but did we learn that the ACC and the SEC are pretty clear the two best conferences in college baseball? Or
we already knew that. I think we were trying to figure out where if the gap, because I think we felt like the ACC was closer than they had been in years, and I think they proved that this week. And I don't know, the SEC to me is still the clear cut number one conference, but I feel like the ACC has pulled a lot closer than they would have, and what proves that is that those 5 to 9 ranked SEC teams didn't win. Because if they had, that would have told us the ACC still got a lot more work to do.
Yeah. So my next question then, Monty, because I'm doing math off the top of my head, did the ACC are they tied with the SEC for the most regional teams?
Yeah, five.
Or, no, not regional.
I know.
Okay.
5 for 11 for the SEC, 5 for 8 for the ACC.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I did, doing math in my head. Because now do we count Oklahoma if they win tonight?
Micah, no, we don't. Micah, the people want to know what the step count is.
Ooh, going into this walk, I had 7,000, so I'm at 8,233. I got to get my 10,000 in. I had a couple people comment on my video this weekend, Monty, saying I'm fat. So now I'm going to start, hitting the gym again since I'm a big boy. So
when did I say that?
Not you. People were the SEC fans. When you tweet out a video that it kind of goes after the SEC, you get people that come after you.
Yeah. I thought you said I had done something.
My beard is awful, which it is pretty brutal when it gets humid. I will admit that. But my beard can be pretty awful, and then I'm just the fat version of SEC Unfiltered. So I took that personally. So now we're just gonna all the podcasts moving forward will be me walking to at least prove that I'm not completely fat.
Yeah. So what were your steps?
8,000. Well, now we're at 9,112.
Wow. Very impressive. Chinook Cedary thought it was going to be 1,233.
12.
1, 2, 3, 3. So 8,000 less.
Now on this walk alone, that's probably about right because I entered with 7,000 and some change. But I didn't start the watch for just this walk alone. So.
Yeah, Josh says at least turn your phone so the camera takes up your whole screen, Micah.
But then it looks so weird.
Oh, there it
is. Is that better? Did you like that better?
It actually is better.
You guys just want to see my smiling face? That makes me feel so special. Dang.
So yeah.
Don't feed the ego, guys. Don't feed the ego now.
So who is? Oh, by the way, UConn's up 4-0.
Wait, is it still the first? There was 2-0 when I left. That UConn was up in the first.
It's the 5th inning.
5th inning. Was it the 5th inning? Whatever inning I was in, they had the throwing error on a strike 3 that I was like, I wonder if UConn will make them pay. So I wonder if that's why it's 4-0. But
yeah, well, tell me who you think your player of the game was today. You think it's Dalton Pence?
Ooh. Yeah, it's either Dalton Pence. D'Onofrio was pretty good too. But yeah, I think you got to go Pence. The way he came in, I'm trying to think. Is there anybody offensively that you feel like had that? Because what opened the scoring, but tied the game is an error, so you can't really give it on the double. I don't know. Yeah, Dalton Pence.
Did they mark that an error, or are we just saying it's a defensive mistake, and even though it got counted as a hit?
So they did rule it a double.
Okay, so yeah, all right. So it's a miscue that got counted as a hit. Got it.
Well, I'm asking.
Typically they did because it didn't hit the glove. So that's typically what they do is if it didn't hit the glove, it's marked a hit when it's.
I do wonder, Monty. So they said that they saw him look down. I don't know if you had the audio on, but they said they saw him look down right when he went to catch the ball. He looked down for half a second. That's the outfield where you can just stand and look through the fence. I wonder if anything distracted him out there. Obviously we're never going to find out if that was a reason because that's just going to sound like an excuse. But I am curious because that's that the spot where you can just park. People will literally set up their chairs and just kind of it's a UNC light. It's an ECU light version of the jungle where you can just sit out there, look through the fence. I'm wondering if anybody said it.
I'm familiar.
Oh, you've been to the Bosch before, Monty? I forgot.
Many times. So, Josh or not Josh Chinook brought up a good point. Will Helmers, how about his performance for LSU?
Goodness gracious. I mean,
And I loved Jay Johnson going out there. Was it 2 outs in the 7th?
yeah, I think so. I think that's
And
right.
yeah, and Will Helmers talked his way into staying on the mound, and Jay Johnson gave him that opportunity, and he delivered.
Yeah, I mean, that was I tweeted on the fifth quarter page, Monty. Like LSU just has this it factor. They have, it's stuck with me what Gilmore said in the press conference for the Coastal Clemson game is in postseason play, and it's kind of what Brian O'Connor said too, right? You have the right guys. Someone's going to have to step up in these regionals because you only have so many arms. You physically can't throw someone every single day, and he did that. He delivered. I mean, I feel bad for the kid because with the way he pitched, he deserved to have a win for his team.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it sounded like he hadn't pitched much in 3 years at LSU.
Yeah.
And to come out, that's one of the best parts of this postseason is when you get in these games where you just have to throw someone out there. They're guys that step up, and that's where the really cool stories come in because you have to turn to somebody like Helmers late in the game because you've got no one else after 5 games in the regional. And he stepped up. It's great. I mean, that's the same thing that happened at Virginia. They go to Jay Woolfolk. Of course, they weren't playing in a 5th game, but they go to Jay Woolfolk, and he just steps up. And that's what's really cool about these stories is you see these guys that have had rough seasons or haven't gotten an opportunity because of injury or just haven't gotten an opportunity, and they step up and they get this moment that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I mean, I even saw it yesterday with the Georgia game. Georgia Tech goes with Patel, who had I think like 9 or 10 ERA coming into it. And He goes, I think, 5 or 6 deep and just gives Georgia Tech a chance. I mean, those are the stories that we love. And it's so much fun to follow in the postseason because, like you said, Monty, like these are names that hopefully, I mean, obviously in Helmer's case, he's out of eligibility. They made it sound like he was done.
I think so because they mentioned that he had played 3 years. They mentioned each of his like career highs for the previous 3 years.
Yeah.
Before this year, so he should be out.
Yeah. So like obviously for him, that's not a future kid, but like again, we see those names that come up and you're like, oh wow, this guy's gonna be the guy maybe next year. It was a lot of fun to see. Well,
it's also cool because like in the case of Helmers, he's not. He may not have a future baseball a future, and this might be a guy that's going to work in out in the world in a career next month, and he had this really cool moment, and it's something to remember when these teams are getting eliminated as well. That these are the end of some of these guys' phases of their lives, like not just in terms of the college graduation portion, but their baseball careers that they've been playing since they were 5 or 6 years old when they did t-ball. Yeah, and that's a pretty crushing, that's a pretty big transition in life.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still remember like Monty. That's why I hate loving college athletics so much. Like yesterday, watching the Georgia Tech guys, because it reminds me of I was a Division II athlete, right? I didn't play a lot. I was banged up most of my career, but when my season ended, I have not picked up and gone full uniform for a lacrosse game since I graduated. And that was, again, my whole life, middle school, high school, college. Like, it's tough for these guys. But, at least, like you said, he can go down knowing he did his job when he retired. 15 straight, is that what it was?
Yeah, something like that. He was electric. I mean, that low slot was giving them a lot of problems.
Yeah, and speaking of that, someone mentioned on Twitter that they thought the umpire was giving him the low part of the zone, but not giving it to UNC. I didn't feel that way. Did you feel that way at all, Monty?
I didn't feel that way.
Yeah. I agree. I just didn't know if because like they were saying because of his arm slot and where he was hitting, like that he was getting the call, and then on the flip side, right, the guys for UNC weren't getting it. And I was like, I would argue that at the end of the day, in a controversial striker ball call, I think I saw more. I was like, ooh, I thought that was a strike against UNC than for UNC. So, yeah, well, I was thinking I had one more question for you, Monty, regarding this, but I don't remember what it was now. I guess, actually, I mean, I know this is we were recapping UNC. Who do you think Florida State wants to win tonight?
I don't think
obviously they're never going to answer that question. They're going to say we're just going to go play our game. Well, who do you think they match up better with?
I don't think they care. I think they match up fine with either one.
Yeah, Monty, but I'm making you pick one.
I'm not picking one. I don't need to pick one. Florida State's a number 8 national seed. They're higher ranked than both these two teams. I would guess you'd want to play UConn because in theory they're not as good, but like I don't. Josh is an FSU fan. He just said honestly don't care, but matchup wise, slightly UConn.
See, I thought Oklahoma was a little bit of a better matchup because UConn has the pitching, and they're very, very, very good defensively. Not saying that Florida State can't beat them just by being better than them, because I think they'll be favored against either one of these teams. But I think in the postseason, sometimes that the defense is kind of what saves you in a lot of situations. I mean, it's kind of what this UConn Oklahoma game's about. UConn makes an incredible defensive play to end a threat against Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma should have been getting out of an inning on a strike 3, and the catcher throws the ball into the outfield, and the runner advances to third, and they score 2 more runs because of that.
Yeah, well, I don't care about either of these two teams because they ousted Duke, so they can both lose for all I care.
I mean, technically, Oklahoma ousted Duke.
Well, no, I mean, they did the final nail, but UConn drove in the first one.
Yeah, but what's it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
I don't know how that phrase applies, but
I'm just trying to defend my Hook Sea boys, okay?
Yeah, well, they're not the ACC, but Josh brought up a great point.
ACC member.
By the way, Josh brought up a good point. The Noles put up 24 runs without Tibbs getting a single hit all weekend.
I didn't even realize that stat. I never looked in to see how. I knew he didn't have a good weekend, like a numbers weekend, but I didn't realize he had 0 hits. That's wild.
Yeah, so I'm sure he was walked a couple times, but yeah, I mean they had a really good weekend without really looking all that impressive. But I mean, Carson Dorsey and Jamie Arnold were fantastic. So Chinook asked us whether a first-time champion will be crowned this year, and they said either way, the best seeds ever will be involved. I will be enjoying more of those cinnamon toasts. Those are the only ones I get at this point. The cinnamon toast seeds from Chinook this weekend at Charlottesville. You need to figure out where you're going because you were all of a sudden talking about joining me in Charlottesville. Now you're talking about Chapel Hill.
Well, you never let me tell the story. Or did I tell the story and I might have forgotten that I told you the story? About why I'd go to Chapel Hill.
I can't remember, man. It's late.
Well, my athletic trainer in college is West Virginia's baseball athletic trainer. That's why. But anyways.
Sorry. Oh, you did tell me that, but you didn't tell it on the show.
Yeah, I know. I tried to, and then you just, didn't want to hear me talk. So I get it.
Well, you were the one that was trying to go off topic when I'm trying to lead a show here about UNC winning, and you're talking about next week that we're going to cover in our normal show tomorrow, which, by the way, we'll be doing our normal show tomorrow, probably around 8 o'clock, I would imagine, where we kind of recap all the regionals for the ACC teams and look at the ones ahead this weekend. This is just a special live show that we wanted to do. I wanted to do. Micah just happened to hop on after I said I was going to do it solo. So I'm amped up from the UNC game, and I'm just so impressed with what UNC was able to do. A lot of teams, I think they lose that Sunday game last night, and momentum's all on LSU's side. Pressure shifts from LSU to UNC. And then with LSU leading most of that game, I thought UNC just fought, and it was just a really valiant effort on their part. Obviously, LSU had their chances to not let it happen, but at the end of the day, UNC is going on, and that's our 5th regional host moving on to the Super Regionals. Yeah,
I mean, impressive stuff. Is it just them in Evansville that won today that lost yesterday? Because Oklahoma State beat or lost to Florida, and Florida had won yesterday.
Yep. So, and then
Oregon State finished off Irvine, but that was a sweep technically.
So UConn could be in that boat if they win today.
Correct.
And they're up 5-0 with runners on the corners.
By the way, I know obviously 6 o'clock is a pretty solid prime time spot, right? Like it's available for people. But let's just shout out. I know obviously ECU is also not ACC, but ECU in North Carolina set the tone for Monday attendance because I don't know if you saw the attendance in Stillwater, Monty. Good goodness gracious, that place was empty. Like I know it was Monday at like 2:00 Central, so obviously it's a little bit harder for folks to work around that. That's not necessarily a shot at Oklahoma State, but
I'm not surprised by East Carolina at all because I bet Greenville, North Carolina shut down today.
Probably, honestly, they probably like they like those Twitter accounts. Those like they put out the your excuse from work, jokingly kind of doctor note kind of thing. I bet you they actually take those at companies in East Carolina in general for those types of games. But and obviously UNC set the tone tonight. But I mean, I don't know how the weather is in Norman. Did Noah is he in Norman or no? Did he have to go back to?
I can't keep track of him anymore. I don't know. I think he went home today.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it looks pretty empty there when I was watching, Monty. I don't know if maybe I just got a bad angle, but it didn't look like it was a very raucous environment in Norman either. So
yeah.
But no, I mean, by the way, if Chinook's
I was
still
really
out
impressed
here,
I was really impressed with the Bosch tonight. But yeah, no, Josh wanted to know what the ACC's record overall versus the SEC this weekend. They were 5-2. UVA beat Mississippi State twice. UNC, LSU.
That means they're 6-2, Monty, right? Or no, Clemson didn't play Vandy, did they? So
nope. I if you would let me go through it, I would tell you everything.
Okay, jeez.
Yep. UVA beat Mississippi State twice. That's 2-0. UNC beat LSU twice, lost once. That's 4-1. NC State beat South Carolina once. That's 5-1. And then Georgia Tech played Georgia once and lost. That's 5-2.
Hold on.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just doing math in my head real quick. I was making sure. Yeah, we're good.
You don't need to make sure I'm right. This is like the third time you've tried to check my math. Third time I've been right, and you just.
I for some odd reason thought it was 6. I don't know why I thought it was 6. I'm still determined it's 6, but you're right. I'm sure. I'm determined it's 6, and that's okay. Maybe I just gave Georgia Tech the win in my head last night because I'm still not haven't accepted it. But
Josh just said LOL, Micah, so I was right.
Yeah.
You were wrong.
Yeah.
Micah, you got any final thoughts on the game tonight before we finish off our special show?
Well, first off, Chinook, I agree with you, Monty. The cinnamon toast crunch one, best in the game. But on tonight, I mean, this is what college baseball is all about, right? I mean, two teams. I mean, Twitter was all over this, and it was just great to kind of see that, the atmosphere behind it. The sport just continues to grow. It sounded like we had broadcasters in the booth, Monty. Did that seem correct to you as well?
Mike Monaco was in, and Gabby Sanchez were in the booth at Chapel Hill.
So that's obviously a thumbs up from me on that front. Unfortunately, Anish was obviously still remote at ECU today.
Yep.
I don't know if you noticed that, but no, I mean, this was awesome. I'm intrigued to see what the scheduling looks like tomorrow, so I can figure out what I'm doing for the weekend. But
yeah, I will not be surprised if UVA, if they have a choice, they're going to want to play at 12 o'clock on Friday, as is Oak's preference. So
how far is Charlottesville from Chapel Hill? Do you know, Monty?
Not off the top of my head, because remember, I'm coming from Richmond, but I can Google it for you.
Richmond to Chapel Hill is what?
2 hours and 15 minutes.
So the max it would be is 3 hours and 15 minutes because it's an hour to Charlottesville, right? So
yes.
Okay. I mean, that if it's a day-night doubleheader, I mean, that's doable too. I'm trying to maximize here because I don't know if I can get barked at another. Plus, if I show my face in that Georgia press box wearing an NC State hat this time, they're gonna be like, "What in the world is this dude doing?" So,
I will make sure that I bark at you plenty this week just to keep you on your toes. But for me, great job by UNC. Obviously, LSU was a very, very tough opponent, and like you said, I think LSU goes to a different ACC host, and they probably get by because that's how dangerous they are. But I don't have any final thoughts. We'll be doing our normal show, recapping all the regional action for the ACC related teams tomorrow. We'll be also previewing the super regional teams. Mike and I will have a decision on where we're going this weekend. But I hope everyone has a great night and enjoys their week and gets some rest ahead of super regional weekend. And then after that, it is Omaha, which unfortunately my season of travel ends this weekend, regardless of what happens. But Micah will be going to Omaha. So anyway, we will see you guys tomorrow night. Have a great night.
Go ACC.